Hi, everyone. One of our students, Braden Squires, had put something on my Google Classroom about maybe I should have something that has to do with loss. And I think that's a great idea. Thank you, Braden. And so what I wanted to make a video about is the idea of grief. And I'm going to share with you my favorite definition of grief, and that is the normal reaction or response to change of any kind. And a lot of you have maybe heard me say this before, but I like to think of grief as kind of being an umbrella that holds several different feelings, and we'll talk about that. But so change of any kind. So that could be you move houses and you feel these certain feelings around having to say goodbye to that house that you loved living in. You might feel grief if you leave summer camp for the summer, and after spending 7 or 8 weeks with these people and in that place, you feel sad, to say goodbye to them, and you can feel that loss. You might even feel grief when you leave school at the end of the year because you're going to miss your teacher that you saw every day so much. I know that I think that I have felt grief during at-home learning because I miss coming to BAC. I miss who I work with. I miss seeing you kids. And that has been something where I feel like I felt many different feelings around losing that place that I can physically go to every day. And then, of course, certainly when somebody in our life dies, we feel grief. So here are some of the feelings, a few of them that you might feel. Okay. If you guys can see that, is disbelief. So we just might not believe that what happened. Is this really real, right? You might hear other words like shock, or that you're in denial about what happened. And certainly there's this kind of sometimes what if kinds of thoughts that come into our head, like, well, if I had done this, would that have changed things? Okay, well, could I have maybe said that, and then would that have changed what happened, right? And sometimes that might turn to guilt, sometimes not, but this kind of like questioning, like, is there anything I could have done? Anger, and we all know what anger is, right? So, but we may feel a mix of a lot of feelings like frustration and sadness and anger. And you guys know what sadness is. And then there is acceptance, that we, accept what happened or accept that we aren't in control of everything, and that we can still find a way to feel hopeful going forward. All right. So now here's the thing, is that when we feel that we've lost something and we feel those feelings, we don't necessarily feel those feelings in some straight line where at first I'm shocked, and then what if there's something I could have done? Oh, I'm mad. Oh, I'm sad. Oh, I'm okay. It's not like a line. And this is how I like to think about it. But you guys, you have to know that this is a very personal thing, and everybody has different thoughts about what grief is, and everybody has a different way of going through it. But the reason why I like this image for thinking about how we feel when it comes to grief is that it's not a straight line, where sometimes maybe we're going to have some sadness that's going to pop up. But maybe after that, we're going to have a little burst of anger. Something, happens, and we think about something, and boom, I'm angry. We might get caught up, depending on the situation, a lot in the what if. Gosh, is there anything I could have done? Is there anything I could have done? So, but then, we might come back here again and we might feel, a little bit of sadness. All right, so you guys get the idea that it's different feelings are gonna cycle through, but they're all together under that umbrella of grief. And so I just wanted to share that with you because sometimes when we have the words for things or we even have kind of a framework for something, sometimes that helps us to feel less worried. So I just wanted to share, those are just my personal thoughts on grief. So what if some of you are feeling grief now, whether it's because we're doing at home learning or because maybe you can't see one of your parents very much anymore because of the job that they have. You know, maybe they work in the medical field and maybe they are really needed for people in need right now. You know, or I know for some of you, you have had somebody who has passed away while we've been at school. And so, what can you do? Um, I would say there's no one right way to grieve, and everybody does it differently. Um, but just a couple things to keep in mind. Sometimes having a routine, sometimes we find comfort in that. Okay. Um, Sometimes we might need to really think about things like, well, what is in my control and what isn't in my control? Because let's say that you are really missing a parent right now who's on the front lines of helping New Jersey people who are going through coronavirus, okay? And, you know, you can't really control that, right? So maybe if you remind yourself, you know, I feel sad that I don't get to see my mom or my dad as much, or that I worry when they go to work, right? But if you can say, well, what is in my control? You know, what is in my mom or dad's control? That we are keeping safe, that we're sheltering in place, that, you know, we aren't touching our face, we're washing our hands, right? Okay. What is in my control? Um, Sometimes we might need a way to say goodbye, all right? And that could be something that we could talk about. There are certain needs that we might have. Sometimes we do need to say goodbye. Maybe the last thing I'll say is just sometimes it is good to be able to figure out what it is that you feel. But I don't think that means that you have to just talk to somebody and figure it out, or that you have to write in a journal and figure it out. Sometimes that is just through listening to music. We might hear a song that all of a sudden you kind of feel like, oh, maybe I can relate to that, or I understand that. Or maybe you watch a TV show and you can see that a character has maybe felt something like what you felt. Um, same with books and characters. That might help us figure out how we feel. And sometimes when our feelings feel really strong, sometimes it's okay to just say, you know what, I think I don't want to think about that right now. I think I'd like to give myself a break and maybe distract yourself for a little bit until you feel like you want to come back to figuring out how you feel. But there's no shoulds, all right? Um, every time we say goodbye to something or someone, that's our own journey. So there's no one right way. And so my only hope in sharing this with you is that maybe I gave you an idea of some ways to think about grief um, that might be useful. Okay? All right, you guys, take care.